Hello and welcome back to Layla's Writing Lab. My name is Layla. For those of you who've been following, you'll know that this week we've been looking at how to write the TOEFL Writing Task 1, which is known as the integrated writing. We've looked at how when we're reading the passage, we would take a single keynote or idea from each part or each paragraph of the reading, and for more advanced students, as you're taking notes, you would also substitute certain keywords with a synonym, because when we want to write, we don't want to copy down the same words as the reading. We want to use synonyms. So that's what we've done with the reading passage so far. And we finally came up with 3 main points that were highlighted in the reading section. Then, if you remember, the following day I uploaded the listening, and we did the same with the listening section. We came up with 3 important points that we heard in the listening section, and so we have our 3 key ideas from the reading and 3 key ideas from the listening. And what we're going to do now is we're going to put it all together and form our writing. Now, before I start with the writing itself, there are 5 key tips that I want to share with you in order to help you to improve your writing and to produce a very good and high quality piece of writing so that you can get a higher score. Tip number 1 is that before you start writing, quickly go over the reading passage again. As you may know, in the test, you're given the reading passage, you have 3 minutes to read it, then you have the listening, but then you get to have the reading passage again. And this is the place where you will go over your notes one more time. If you haven't already, this is the stage where you would replace keywords with synonyms or replace a sentence with a paraphrased version. This is the first step to increasing your mark. Now, as I showed you just a second ago, when we were writing the keynotes from each section, we've already substituted the keywords with synonyms. Tip number 2, do not give your own opinion. Now, it's difficult not to give your own opinion because in many of the other writing questions, for example the TOEFL Task 2, we are specifically asked to give our opinion. However, we should only stick to the facts and information in the reading and the listening for TOEFL Task 1, so we should not give our own opinion. Tip number 3, write only about the important information. The reading and the listening will include a lot of examples and extra information, but we only get higher marks if we select the most important information and ideas. Tip number 4, focus on the listening first and then the reading. So the main focus of your writing should be the information you heard in the listening. You should write about how the lecture challenges or disputes, which means disagrees, with the reading. So when you're going to do your writing, first you have to say what it says in the listening, and then you have to say how that is different or possibly similar in some cases to the reading. And the final tip is clarity, cohesion, and accuracy are key. By clarity, I mean that it should be very clear to the examiner or the reader what your writing says. You should be very clear if you think that something has been contradicted, if something agrees with something else. You have to be very clear in your writing. There should be cohesion, and this relates to the words and grammar that you use to create a sentence or paragraph, and that is crucial to getting a high score. So think of it like the glue you would use to stick your words together in order to form a correct sentence. So the advanced vocabulary that you use, if you're using any specific tense, if you're using, for example, the passive voice, this all relates to cohesion. And finally, accuracy. You should write specifically according to the information in the lecture and reading passage. In addition, be extra careful in your choice of words. You'll see in a moment in the writing there will be instances where I will include synonyms for the same word. A lot of times you find that you need to use, for example, the word however. And you might see in some writing that the student has used however, however, however. But it's important that we try and use synonyms and not repeat the same words. Okay, so now let's go. We're going to compare the listening notes we have to the reading and then prepare our paragraphs. So now that we want to write our writing, we need to first come to the first point that we wrote in the listening section. And our point was this: everyone gets equal acclaim for work done by the team. If you remember, the listening that I posted said that it's a group effort, it's a team effort, and so if anybody does something really good, it's not just one individual who gets credit for it, the whole group gets credit for doing the job well. When we come to the notes from the reading section, the first point that we wrote down was the fact that members can tackle a new assignment best in gathered teams. And again, if you remember, we've used certain synonyms taken from the reading passage. Now what we have to do is take the key point from the listening and the reading and write our writing. But first we need to include an introduction. So here I'm going to share with you my answer to this question. We'll start with the introduction. The lecture was about the findings of a firm regarding handing over certain assignments to groups of people, giving them the responsibility for completing the assigned tasks. The speaker stated that the reading passage included conflicting information, that means it disagrees with the listening, in comparison to what actually happened. Okay, so again I've taken certain keywords that I heard in the listening. For example, in the listening it said that the lecture is about companies regarding what they have found in the project research, and I've substituted company by firm. And then somewhere else it talked about projects, and I've substituted that by the word assignments. So in the introduction I have to very briefly say what the listening was about, and also I have to say whether the listening and the reading agree or disagree with each other, and that should be the final sentence of your introduction. The speaker states that it's conflicting information in comparison to what actually happened. So we've already taken a look at the first point in the listening and the first point that we wrote down in the reading, and now we're going to bring it together. First, comma, and I always have to include a comma. It is part of punctuation, and if we don't, marks will be deducted. First, according to the listening, so again we start out with what the listening said and then we compare it to the reading. Everyone got equal acclaim for work done by the team. Now you might recognize this because this is very similar to the point that I wrote down from the listening that I've showed you a couple of seconds ago. However, not everybody did their part. I.e. means for example, i.e. some members got a free ride. This indicates that even people who worked hard got no recognition for their effort. So up to now, this is all what I heard in the listening section. That is to say, and that's another way of saying therefore, that is to say, members were not given the opportunity to emerge from the rest. So, the listening challenges the reading. At the end of the paragraph, I've said what the listening said, I've said what the reading said and how it was different, and therefore I'm saying that the listening challenges the reading. Now we're going to go to the second point. So the second point in the listening, what we have is reaching a final verdict, meaning coming to a decision, could be quite a lengthy process. If you remember, in the listening it said that the group were very slow in coming to a final decision, and that is what we've written as the key point of that paragraph. Now we're going to compare this to our key point in the reading. So the second key point that we have from the reading is more insights and skills, rapidly distributed responsibility. Now, as you can see, this is not a complete sentence, but again, when we're taking notes, we don't have to write in complete sentences. This is just for us, but when it comes to the writing, then we need to form complete sentences. Okay, so now we have the keynote from the listening, part 2, and also the keynote from the reading, part 2, and let's put it together and write our next paragraph. Second, so again, I've started first, comma, second, comma, so my examiner or my reader knows exactly what I'm going to be talking about in this paragraph. Second, reaching a final verdict turn out to be a lengthy process. You will recognize this from the note that we made in the listening section. Again, for students who are advanced, when they're writing, they're taking notes in the reading and the listening section, they have to try at the same time as they're taking notes to substitute the key words and write synonyms. If you haven't done that, it's in the writing section here that you would substitute the key words. We don't want to be repeating what we read in the reading and using the same vocabulary. We want to change the vocabulary, and that's how we get a higher score. According to the reading passage, the group's more insight and skills resulted in rapid decisions and distributed responsibility. So first I say what the listening has said, then I say what the reading has said. Yet, which is another word for however. Now I've used the word however before and I don't want to repeat that again, so I use a synonym. Yet, the speaker argued that groups were slower than individuals in coming up with final decisions. It seemed that more time was needed for the groups to hold and conclude meetings. Hence, the listening contradicts the reading. So again, my final sentence, as we did in this paragraph, the listening challenges the reading, it disagrees. Here, the listening contradicts the reading, again, it disagrees. For our third and final point from the listening, the entire team could be blamed for one team member's downfall. And our final point from the reading was all members partake in making decisions. As you remember, we said partake instead of take part. Opportunity to emerge from the rest. And this is where the reading was talking about if somebody does their job really well, they can shine in the group. So now again, let's take these 2 points and let's write our final paragraph. Third, the entire team was blamed for one team member's downfall. This is exactly the same note that I had from the listening. The speaker claimed that some members of the group became more influential and took matters into their own hands, making the final decision for the group and ignoring warning signs. This contradicts, it disagrees with the concept mentioned in the reading passage, where all members partook in making decisions. As a result, the content of the listening disputes the reading passage. Again, my final sentence, I'm saying how the listening is not in agreement with the reading. And that is a complete and very good quality reading and listening that we have integrated to create our TOEFL Writing Task 1. Thank you for listening. I hope you have found this video useful.